welcome to Here We Are, the mindful podcast for millennials, where it's all about remembering where we've been, knowing where we're going, and taking up space in the present through the art of storytelling. I'm your host, Teka, and I'll tie together the practice of presence, life lessons, and some faith and mental health nuggets too, whether sharing my own story or featuring a special guest. I hope to inspire you to take control of your story and essentially take control of your life. I hope you receive what you need from today's story. And remember to check the show notes in the description for any links that we reference today. You ready? Let's journey. Alrighty. So today, you all, we have a guest. Her name is Alexandra Hopkins, and I'm really excited for her to be here. Hey, girl. Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good. So today is all about storytelling, but before we get into that, do you want to share with the listeners and viewers how we know each other?
Yeah, so Tika and I went to high school together. We lived in the same neighborhood, so I think we got rezoned like in the middle of high school, kind of.
Yeah.
And so we went to two high schools together.
Two different high schools.
Yeah. So we met in high school.
Yes, we met in high school. So that feels like it was so long ago, which honestly it was. I graduated 15 years ago this year, which is so crazy to
Isn't that
think
so
about.
crazy?
It's crazy. I'm like, I could have a teenager by now. Like what? But yes,
And some people do.
School. Some people do. Shout out to y'all, mamas. Shout out to y'all. But yes, we know each other from high school. We grew up in the same neighborhood. We'll be running around the neighborhood at each other's houses. Our siblings would hang out with us too. So long-standing friendship and knowledge of each other, getting to know each other. But things have changed, of course, because we've gotten older. I'm sure we could both share stories about how things have changed for us personally, our families, our siblings, everything that's been going on in our life. But particularly today, we're going to talk about siblings. I call her Zan, so y'all might hear me say Zan throughout this podcast. But Zan and I can relate because we both have the dynamic of having like step siblings, half siblings, and how that makes a very unique dynamic when it comes to your family, and how sometimes things are not always the way that we expect. Sometimes things don't always end the way that we expect. And so I want to just hold this space for Zan to share her own story about her siblings. So if you want to share with listeners and viewers, how were things for you growing up in like the neighborhood we grew up in, with your siblings, with your family? What was that like for you?
Yeah. And so I would also add to what you were saying, they're not always as we perceive them to be. Like everyone, even living in the same house, like everyone experiences that household differently. So I was a military brat, and so we moved around a lot. I think I did majority of my schooling overseas, like in DoD schools. And so like my siblings were like a steady, like a constant, a norm. Like we moved every 3 years and may not stay in contact with friends or people we met in certain duty stations, but my siblings were always there. And so I thought that we had I will say there were four of us. And so there's like different dynamics between everyone. So me and my older sister, from like my perspective, we weren't that close, but we weren't like enemies or anything. We didn't dislike each other, like I was just closer to my younger sister. I felt like we were best friends. And I know people could like see it because they would ask like, are you guys twins? I wish they would see us interacting and they would say, I wish I had a sister. And I was like, well, too bad.
Not mine.
Sorry.
This my girl. This mine.
Right.
Find your own.
Yeah. And then we had a younger brother. So me and my sisters have the same biological parents. And then my younger brother is from my stepdad. And I was like 7 when he was born, but I was like obsessed. Like that was my pregnancy at 7. But no, I was like obsessed with my brother. And it's just crazy because things change and you really have no idea that they're going to change or when they're going to change or how they're going to change.
Yeah.
But they change. So I enjoyed like our childhood growing up and even like where we grew up in Virginia. I enjoyed it. I thought that we had like a good life.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like you just said, I like how you added that kind of caveat. Like, even if you grew up in the same household, things are not always the way that you perceive. Everyone's experience
Hmm.
is different, and your enjoyment of that childhood of your siblings, the closeness that you felt with them, like that is real. That's your truth,
Hmm.
and I think a part of it is also being able to kind of say to others, "This is my truth of what has I've experienced,"
Right.
and things may have changed, and
Oh yeah.
so when you think about kind of as you guys got older, we get older, we kind of have our own friends, we kind of go our separate ways, we have our own dreams, we're no longer hanging out all together at the house, we don't want to bring our sister or brother with us, we just
Hmm.
kind of have those normal sibling, I won't say rivalry, but differences. How do
Hmm.
you feel like you and your siblings changed over time?
Okay, so I think the first kind of like hurdle,
Hmm.
like as adults or like young
Hmm.
adults, was me going to the Navy and her going to college. And
Okay.
it's like as a kid, I think like a lot has changed. Like you kind of learn more and like understand more when you become an adult. But as a kid,
Hmm.
I was like, I'm like still, I guess, patriotic, but it kind of is like
Yeah.
weird now and different. But as a kid, it was like military brat, and I was like
Hmm.
super patriotic, and I wanted to
Hmm.
like like pay for my
Serve the
freedom
country
and
and
like
all that.
all this stuff. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I wanted to join the Navy, but I also wanted to go to college. I wanted to be a
Right.
chef. So I wanted to go to Johnson and Wales. I got accepted to Johnson and Wales.
Yes.
It was $30,000. I did not have the
Ooh.
money. My parents did not have the money. So I joined the Navy.
Uh-huh.
And so I was like down in Norfolk on a ship,
Mhm.
and my
Mhm.
sister got accepted to a fairly like prestigious
Mhm.
HBCU in the
Mhm.
area.
Mhm.
And I had money because I was in the military. It
Right,
wasn't that
right,
much money, but it was more
right.
money than we were expecting to have at 18, 19. So
Okay.
I would like take her shopping and stuff, and we would hang out,
Oh.
and she was having her fun at school, and I was having my fun. But I remember when we dropped her off at school, I was like extremely envious that she was going to college and I was in the Navy.
Mm. Mhm.
But it was like my little sister. Like, how,
Yeah.
like, you're going to support her. And so that's what I
Yeah.
did. Like, I supported her, you know?
Okay.
And so, like I said, if she needed things, I would take her places. She was in like ROTC. So we would go to the commissary and the exchange. And like, we kind of had
Mhm.
like that connection because she was planning to join the military after she graduated college.
Okay.
Um, and then I'm like trying to think how everything happened.
Yes.
So, in my opinion, it was like I was seeing something that I really wanted and I wasn't getting, but I always knew like my time was going to come. If this was supposed to be something that I was also supposed to have, it would come.
That's a good
Um,
perspective. Yeah.
and so eventually, some things fell through for her, and she was not able to continue with ROTC. So then she was not able to have her loans paid off by joining the military. And so then she could no longer afford to be at her
At
university.
college. Yeah.
Right. So she moved back home,
Mhm.
and she went to, what's the local? I can't remember the community college. I always want to say TCC, but that's because I'm down here.
Germanna.
Germanna,
Germanna.
yeah.
I was like, I don't know either. I was gonna say Mary Washington, but no, Germanna.
Yeah, so she went to Germanna, and she
Okay.
was like doing well. She was
Yeah.
working,
Yeah.
she was paying for her own education. It was like, you're a
Okay. She bounced
badass.
back. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, that's good, you know?
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I got out of the Navy and I had my
Okay.
GI Bill. So I could go to any school I wanted to that I could get into,
Paid off.
and they would most likely pay for everything, right?
Yeah.
So I applied to the University of Miami, and I was so excited. Like,
Yeah.
I think when I got my acceptance letter to the University of Miami, I remember crying and like knowing, oh, my life is going to go right.
Yeah. Because you wanted
Because,
that. That was your time. The
yeah,
time had came.
and and it's like oftentimes education is pushed as like the only way to success.
Mm,
Granted,
mm-hmm.
I'm sure we know
We
that's
know
not the case
not.
anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the time, that's what I was still feeling. Like I didn't have an education. I just had my military experience, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I wanted. I wanted a college experience and I wanted a degree.
Okay.
And so I got into the University of Miami at the same time, around the same time. Well, when I was in college is when my mom and my stepdad got divorced. So we moved out of
Oh, I
our
don't think I knew that.
neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah, so we moved out of our neighborhood. I was in college, so I was in Miami. They moved out and they moved into like a small 2-bedroom apartment, which is very different from
From the
the
houses
house
we
that
lived
we
in.
live in, right? And so I think it was like a huge shock for her that she was
Mm.
there.
Oh, she went with your
Yeah,
mom.
she was living with my mom, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
attending school and
Right.
working.
Right.
Um, and so for my mom, it was like she's doing what she can to help her. She can't pay for her
Exactly.
education, but she can give you like a roof over her head. And so
Exactly.
I was in college and I was enjoying myself. And
As
like
you should.
they say, right. They say hindsight is 2020, but
Yeah.
and it is because like I'll look back and I'll notice like small little things that well, I remember one statement in particular that she said to me, like, I made a really good friend in college, and she was like, you better not think or she better not be like trying to replace me. And I just like laughed it off. And
Yeah,
the
mama
thing is
can
that,
replace you.
right, you're my sister. Like, what are you talking? And the crazy thing is when I got to college, I remember having conversations with these girls because we
Yeah.
became close friends and
Yeah.
they would be like best friend, best friend, best friend. I was like, I don't have best friends. I have sisters, so I don't need best friends. Like,
Period.
and like, how cocky am I? Or it's almost like rude to honestly say
Yeah.
that because like I'm privileged to have a sister that I'm so close with, you know?
Yeah.
And so I mean, I have close friends, but I don't have best
Mm-hmm.
friends because I have a
Mm-hmm.
sister. Like my sister is my best friend.
Right.
And
Okay.
so and so even when my sister made this statement like, "Oh, she better not be trying to replace me." I didn't give that like reassurance like that's not possible because in my head I
Mm-hmm.
didn't think that it was like a real doubt of hers. You
Right.
know, like I thought it was just like she just
You're
being
just saying
crazy. You know,
stuff
yeah,
and
like she
being a
just
little
being
silly.
funny.
Yeah.
And so I went to college in 2012, fall of
Mm-hmm.
2012. I
Mm-hmm.
think my mom moved into like that new apartment in 2013.
Okay.
And winter of 2014, I came home for winter break
Mm-hmm.
and I still want to be a lawyer, but I don't know if that's something that I'm going to pursue. But I had just purchased an LSAT study book and I was studying for the LSAT because, excuse me, in like a year I would be graduating college and
Mm-hmm.
I would want to go to law school.
Right.
So I remember I had gone to Otani
What's
one
that?
night.
Oh, the restaurant.
Don't tell me you've never been to Otani.
I have, but I was like, I had to remember. I was like, wait, is she talking about a restaurant or is this like
Yes,
some sort of like store or is this like a
hibachi.
person? Okay, hibachi. Yes,
So I had
Otani.
gone to hibachi. I had gone to
We ate
Otani
there
that
for
night.
prom. Anyway.
Yes, everyone goes there for prom. Exactly. So,
Okay.
so I remember the night like so vividly. I went to Otani with a couple of friends. I was like
Hmm.
stuffed because and like you bring a to-go box, but you still eat as much
Of
as you can,
course.
whatever. So I
Hmm.
get home, like to my mom's new place, and
Hmm.
I was like studying, and my sister had just come back
Okay.
from like, I want to say she went to like a Bible study or something like that with a
Hmm.
friend. And so there were 2 bedrooms. I was sleeping on the couch. My brother was home from college. He was like sleeping on the couch or the floor during winter break.
Hmm.
Had
Hmm.
her room,
Hmm.
and my mom had the other room.
Yeah.
And so I remember she went into her room,
Hmm.
and my mom told us like, I need the kitchen clean, the trash taken out, and the dog walked or something like that. I mean, you grow up in a house full of siblings, you know, it's like nose goes, like I'm calling the
Right.
chore that I want. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Yes.
not cleaning the kitchen.
Right.
So
That was the
I
worst one.
remember, I remember like me and my brother like hurry up and called like whichever one we wanted because we didn't want to clean the kitchen.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember my sister saying like, I'm not cleaning the kitchen. And we're like, why? Like, why won't you just clean the kitchen? Like, it's not that big a deal. And for us, it was like, you actually live here. Like, we're just home for break
Touche.
right now. And you
Yeah.
don't pay rent. You know what I mean? Like, mom doesn't make you pay rent. Mom doesn't make you pay utilities. You just live here for free. Like, why can't you clean the dishes?
Yeah.
And so I remember, oh, I need to add our biological father, we do not have a relationship with.
Okay.
Um, she was I was probably like kindergarten, first grade when my parents got divorced. And so
Mm-hmm.
she's like 2.5 years younger than me. So she was like maybe
Three.
3. Yeah, like she was young and she doesn't
Mm-hmm.
really remember. I would assume she does not remember the stuff that he had done to my mom and like put us through. So I'll
Yeah.
give like one little example. I remember he took me and my sisters to, and this is just me remembering like from being a kid, a pool
Yeah.
party that he said was for his job, but he took us with another woman.
Ooh.
And, and I remember, and I thinking back as an adult, I'm like, that lady was probably so petrified because I remember going under the water and holding my hands up to count like how long I could stay under the water. And I inhaled under the water and was like, just like hurling up water, like coughing, coughing. And she like snatched me out of the pool. Like, could you
Oh
imagine
no.
being a
Yes, the
mistress
other
with
woman, right?
exactly and someone's
Like,
child about to drown?
your daughter
Um,
drowned. I happen to be there.
right.
Who are you? Well, who are you, and why
And
were
why were
you
you
there?
there? Exactly. And so
Yikes.
that like there are more stories, but I don't believe she remembers them. And so
Yeah.
um somewhere in this time frame she had started to build a relationship with him.
Okay.
And
During this like college time when you
right,
were
this
home
this
from school.
college time
Okay.
frame, right. And so
Interesting.
in my opinion, he can be very manipulative and
Hmm.
use people to do and like get what he wants. And so
Hmm.
another example, he would send child support, but it would be $8. Me,
Sorry.
me,
For two children? For three,
three
really?
children, right?
I
So,
can't get three kids a Happy Meal. Wait a
well,
minute.
and my thing is, we would get $20 every week for lunch. So, what is your $8 doing?
It's not
And
even
so
paying for
he
half the
has
week.
no, not for one
Wow.
child, not for one child. And so
Yeah.
he has said that he was just trying to get our and my mom's attention by sending $8. And so you're
Attention for what?
affecting your children to get someone's attention. Okay, odd.
Okay.
So so just to give you like kind of like
Yes.
how he like operates.
Yes.
And so she had started to build a relationship with him. And you could tell she really wanted something that
Yeah.
she thought she was really missing.
Yeah.
And so like back to that night, I went
Hmm.
into the her room to ask her, like, why don't you just do the dishes? Like, I don't understand. And I thought I was the closest one to her. That was my best friend. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just gonna
Hmm.
have a conversation with her.
And
And
you were
she
hers, the way she made it seem. You were her
that's
best
what
friend.
I
We're
thought.
close. We can talk
That's
to
what I
each other.
believed. Right. And so um she pulled out her phone and she started recording me.
Huh?
And I'm like, that's what I said. I'm like, this is weird. And so I
Why?
said, and I at the time I still called him dad or daddy, but now I call him by his first name.
Okay.
So I said, I know you're recording to show daddy. Like, can you stop?
Oh.
And so
Ooh.
I reached to cover the phone. Okay, so her bed was like an IKEA bed, like closer to
Hmm.
the floor. And so
Hmm.
I'm almost like I'm standing up. I'm not sitting down. I'm standing
Over
up.
her.
So I'm
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
over her kind of, but
Yeah.
not like to be aggressive, but just because I
Right.
did not sit down when I came in the room. She kicks me in the stomach. So this escalates very quickly because when I
I
say
was gonna say, how did it go from I just want to
I've
check in and
ne-
figure out why you don't want to clean the kitchen to now you're recording
recording
me and
and kicking
assaulting
in the
me?
stomach. Right.
Okay.
But I will I will I will be labeled the aggressor because they'll say that me covering the phone was me lunging at her.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So she kicks me in the stomach and this is after I tried to cover the phone. So I mean, I'm not
Even
going to
though
argue.
you didn't have there was no consent for you to be recorded, so you should be allowed to stop it, but okay.
Right. So she kicks me in the stomach and like I said, I've never fought my siblings before, ever. So this
Wow.
is not something that like, oh, we used to do this as kids and now we're getting back to it. Like, no.
This is
We
such a
didn't
new
hit.
thing. Yeah.
So and there was an all-out fight. Like we fought each other. And for the first part of it, oh, and that's another thing. So so in between me being in the military and going to school, I worked for the government. And during
Okay.
that time, I gained weight. So I was probably
Okay.
like 150-ish. And then when I got to school, I was working with athletics and doing like tours for like prospective football recruits and stuff like that. So I was
Walking and
like
all that.
walking. I had
Yeah.
got down to 118.
Wow.
And I
Okay.
remember, I don't know if I mean, like, it was exciting because I was looking cute in Miami, but um,
It's Miami.
exactly. So, but I will also say, I remember telling them, my mom and my sister, like when I
Yeah.
was home, I feel so small that I couldn't defend myself if I had to. I remember telling them this.
Mm.
And so I
Mhm.
thought it was very ironic that now we get in a fight.
Yeah.
And so there was a fight for the first
Mhm.
half of it. I was just like, get off
This
of
is
me.
happening.
You know,
Yeah.
like, get off of me. I wasn't really trying to fight her. Then
Mhm.
it's like, okay, well, now I'm going to have to defend myself. But she was
Right.
bigger than me. And not
Right.
not like to throw shade or
Yeah.
anything, but she was bigger
Yeah.
than me. I had lost a lot of weight.
Mhm.
And so it got to a point where I'm like laying on the floor and she's straddled on top of me, like banging my head into the ground.
What?
Yes. And she knows I am not the person to let that go.
Oh.
There was no way she was just going to sleep peacefully that night because we've never gotten to that point. And so I don't really know.
Why did it escalate
I
that
don't.
to that level of like hostility? It's like, why are we this violent? Why are we this
So,
aggressive?
right. So I think what I have taken away is like the smallest like show of jealousy. I'm done. I'm out. I'm gone.
Okay, so what would you say the difference between jealousy and envy are?
Yeah, so I think that envy is more like you want something that someone else has, but you're willing to work for it yourself. Whereas jealousy is like, I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna take them out so that they don't have it for themselves. Like if I can't have it, nobody can. And that's how I think of
Mm,
jealousy. And
mm-hmm.
envy is like, yes, it's one of the deadly sins, but it's like people are envious of a lot of things, and I don't think that they're gonna attack people or go out of their way
Right.
so someone else can't have it because they're envious. At least that's how I
Okay.
think of it.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so that night,
Mm-hmm.
so we kind of left off in the fight. So she was like banging my head on the floor,
Mm-hmm.
and at that, and my mom had come in the room like, stop it, like screaming, please stop, please stop. And it wasn't stopping. And so after she had like straddled me, she jumped up, ran out of the apartment, and we were on the first floor. So she just ran straight out of the apartment. She goes to other doors and starts banging on doors saying that I'm trying to kill her. So it's like escalating, and then it's escalating more and more
This
and more,
went to another level.
uh, that I could have never imagined, ever. I could have never imagined it in a million years.
Happening.
So the people called the police.
Of
There's a
course.
lady at my door saying that someone's trying to kill her. So the police
Yeah.
come out.
Yeah.
And what I know now is don't let the police in because the police are going to make up their story. If you need the police, let the police in. But in a situation like if I could go back, me and my mom said we wouldn't let the police in because
Yeah.
go talk to the person that thinks they're going to get killed. Don't come talk to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and so the police officer determined that I was the aggressor, and I was
Wow.
arrested that night. And yes,
Oh
and I was taken
no.
to Rappahannock Regional Jail.
Oh
So
my
so
gosh.
while I'm on winter break from college studying for my LSAT, and it's like embarrassing, like because I'm thinking like
Yeah.
this will all be cleared up. Like I'll talk to my sister tomorrow. This will all be cleared up. As angry as I am, I'm like bawling, crying my eyes out. I'm gonna talk to her tomorrow. It'll all be fine.
You're still open to reconcile. You're still
Oh
thinking
yeah,
about, hey, this is my
I'm
best friend. This is my sister. We'll figure this out. But you're literally in jail. Okay.
yeah. And I remember even asking because it's like I never thought I'd be in jail. I
Yeah.
remember asking the police officer like, should I change my bra so that I don't have underwire on? It was like this is like I'm not doing this, right? Like this is she was
Yeah.
like, "No, you'll be out. It's just we're just going to book you and you'll be right out." And so I'm like, "Okay." We drive
Yeah.
into Rappahannock Regional Jail, talk to the magistrate. We're doing fingerprints, we're doing like
All the
the
things, the
photos. Yeah.
shots. Yeah.
And then they put me in a jail cell. And so I'm like, okay, this is not, again, not panning out the way I'm thinking. So I call
Mm-hmm.
my mom. She's like trying to get a bail bonds and all this stuff. So we eventually I get out, and this is on
Mm-hmm.
December 30th. So I get out December 31st, and we
New
go
Year's Eve.
to, what is it, like Hallelujah night or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Go to
and so,
watch night. That's what it's called. I was like,
or
what
watch,
is
whatever
called?
it is.
Watch
Yeah.
night. Yes.
To bring in the new year. So I'm like, okay. And I texted her, I'm like, but there's a protective order. So I had to wait like 3 days or something like that. There was like an immediate protective order put in place. So I had to wait like three
Okay.
days. And I texted her, I'm like, do you want to sit down and talk? She was like, there's
Yeah.
nothing to talk about. So it's like, this is what she wanted.
Saying this is over the kitchen. Is this over
That's
the
what
no,
I'm
this not. This not this
Tika,
is but this is not over the kitchen. But I feel
Tika.
like we know this is deeper, but it's kind of like how did cleaning the kitchen become the catalyst to like
Hmm.
all of this?
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. So there's nothing to talk about. I
So I'm
disagree, but
like,
okay.
okay, so I have to call a lawyer because if she's not going to drop charges, I have to fight my case.
Yeah. Oh
And
gosh.
she will say probably to this day that she could not drop the charges, that the prosecutor press charges. But if you don't show up, if you tell them you don't want to press charges, that's what
Right.
they're going to do.
They won't
So
do it.
come on. So hire an attorney. The attorney says, and I'm sure he deals with these domestic violence cases a
Mm-hmm.
lot where
Mm-hmm.
people do not want to get their family members in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, do you want to be free? And I said, yes.
Yeah.
And he said, so then you need to do what I'm telling you to do. And I said, okay. He said, go down to the magistrate, or I don't remember exactly what it was,
Mm-hmm.
write out everything that happened, because the point where she straddled you and started banging your head on the floor, she probably could have said self-defense up until then. But then when she gained control and continued fighting,
Yeah.
that's when she kind of like muddied
Turned
the
into the
waters.
aggressor. Yeah.
Right. So now I can press charges back on her. So we both have the same charges. I go back to school. When I say I go back to school and I'm a completely different person, I never told one soul at school what happened. Not one soul.
Of course. I mean, you said
I didn't even know
that's
how to get,
embarrassing. How do we bring that
and you
up?
don't even, that's what I'm saying. You don't even know how to like start the story. I never told anyone. And so, where I'm like, like I have this case. And so, probably that summer, so summer 2015,
Okay.
I got a job with my university,
Mm-hmm.
and it was working with kids. And so they do a background check, and my case is open because.
Wait, by the time you get to the summer, have y'all went to court or anything? Like, had the lawyer said anything was
No,
happening? Okay, so
no, but
this was
she
just like,
no, yeah, it's still just open, and we're waiting for
okay,
a court date.
okay,
And she continued to like, I don't know what the word is, like re-up the restraining order, even though I was living in another state, and she knew I was living in another state. Typically, you can't get a restraining order if someone lives in another state.
right.
So, that summer, so they did the background check. They came and asked me, you don't have to tell us what happened, but if you would like to share, we're open to listening. And so I told them what
Mm-hmm.
happened, and sounds like sibling jealousy, and like
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like me going to find
You weren't
someone and
going to
assault
attack
them.
somebody. Yeah.
Right. And so they allowed me to have the job, and
Oh, good. Okay.
yeah, so it's just like this weight. And so I remember getting a call from my attorney during that summer, and he said, she just filed a motion to sue you for $10,000.
I'm sorry. Sorry. Each step this story takes is blowing my
Hmm.
mind. Now, what is the
Hmm.
$10,000 for?
So the night that she attacked me, because I'm going to say she attacked me, because I don't think that this
That's not an
warrants
attack.
everything that happened.
Yeah.
Um, and so that night, our father he had purchased her a guitar long before then.
Mm-hmm.
But because I couldn't get my hands on her, I broke her guitar. I remember like
Okay.
stomping on that guitar so hard. And
Okay.
she says that guitar was worth $10,000. At least that's what I was told. I don't know. And so I remember telling my attorney, like, I really think that there needs to be a psych eval. Can you ask them for a psych eval? Like, I'm being
Hmm.
serious. There needs to be a psych eval. And he's like, no, we can't just request a psych eval. And I'm like, there's something more going on. There's something going on. And he's like, we can't request a psych eval. And so I remember, and typically, so that like your lawyer has a fiduciary duty, like they have your best
Mm-hmm.
interest at heart.
Yes.
But they should be contacting you before making a decision for me. I remember he called me that day and he said, um, typically I would have like spoken to
Give
you
you a heads
first.
up. Uh-huh.
Right. But this was so preposterous that I told them that if they wanted to pursue this, I would get that her attorney disbarred and your sister would be under the jail by the time
Oh,
this case was over.
come
I
on,
was like, that's
lawyer.
I was like,
I
that's
know
the kind
that's
of lawyer
right.
I need, okay?
What's your retainer? Because I need you
Right.
in
So
my
I'm like,
corner at all times.
thank God
Your lawyer
somebody
said,
is
"Don't
like,
try us."
right, somebody is
Wow.
like helping me. Like somebody is
Yeah.
finally seeing like
Yeah.
how over the top this is.
Hold on. I have a quick question.
Yeah.
What is your mom's like? How is she responding to all of this? Because I could imagine that she's probably looking at her daughters like, what the heck is going on?
Right. Even now it like tears her apart. But it's
I
like, what
can't
can you do? You can't
imagine.
control other people. You can't
You
make them
can't.
like
You can't.
you can't control
Oh
them.
my gosh. Okay. Because I was thinking
So,
about that, like, you know how sometimes parents they have these goals and dreams for their children,
mhm,
or you know, like you said, your mom,
mhm,
she's trying her best to just like put a roof over her head,
mhm.
support her as she's in community college, you know,
Right.
support you and your brothers. Y'all are in school,
Mhm.
like all of y'all are doing what they call
Trying.
the successful path, trying to be
Mhm.
successful, good citizens, and then this happens. So it's like
Mhm.
it's like it's a mind just mind blown.
Right.
Okay, so your lawyer's like, don't play us. We're not. If you pursue this, I'll make sure that all of
We're
y'all
going in.
pay the consequences.
Right, we're
Okay.
going in. And so
Period.
eventually, I think around August,
Mm-hmm.
um, we finally had our court date,
Mm-hmm.
and because we both had charges, there was nothing
Mm-hmm.
she couldn't fight. You know what I mean? So
Right.
in court that day, she agreed to drop charges. I agreed to drop charges.
Okay.
But from that day moving forward, I'm never speaking to you again.
I could imagine.
To think that someone that close to you could intentionally try to ruin your life,
Mm,
when I say it was just, I even now, like repeating it, it's like, that's not true. Like, that's not real. That
it's
didn't happen. And
surreal.
it happened.
Yeah.
So, so since then, um, so I graduated college and it
Mm-hmm.
actually has caused a huge rift even in my extended family because one of
Mm,
my mom's sisters, so my mom is one of six kids. And
okay.
so she has two other sisters, and one
Mm-hmm.
of her sisters would say that I was her twin because we were both the
Mm-hmm.
middle girl, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
middle child syndrome and stuff like that. And
Mm,
like we like to get cute and stuff like that. So we were very similar.
mm-hmm.
When this happened, that aunt never told so she allowed my sister to come live with her because my mom said you're not allowed in this house anymore. She allowed
Okay.
my sister to come live with her.
Uh-huh.
And then she never said, "I think that you should go try to mend things with your sister and your mom." She never said that. What she did was took my sister in as her own daughter, so to speak. And this aunt does not have children. And so she's like taking my sister in and kind of like acts like a mother and grandmother. And
Yeah.
so this has caused a rift between my mom and her sister now. And so
Wow.
and I say that I often feel like I'm to blame because my I think maybe you can attest to this, that I
Mm-hmm.
think growing up I
Mm-hmm.
was always like super assertive. Like, don't,
Mm-hmm.
I think I give off the like, don't mess with her.
Mm-hmm.
And even my sister, her friends would always be like, I wish I had a big sister like Zan. I
Mm-hmm.
remember this one girl called my sister Bojangles, and she worked at the Giant on down from our neighborhood. And I
Okay.
remember I parked next to her car and waited until she came off her shift. And I said, "What does Bojangles mean if you call someone Bojangles?" And I
Okay.
got because it's a small place where we're from. So I got
Yes.
word that there was a staff meeting that Like people needed to be walked to their cars now because there was like safety stuff going. When I say I protected my sister, don't you
Yeah.
ever, ever, ever think you can mess with my sister.
Yeah.
So I think like I gave that off all the time.
Right.
And so
But
when
over
this
your
happened,
family and yourself.
right. But when this happened, people pulled from those instances and those experiences that they
Tried to
saw of
build
me
some character. Yeah.
and said, this is how she is. And it's funny
Mm.
because I had an incident in college where this girl attacked me at a bar. She was drunk. I think she was like on something. We had to go to court. She was on something like on,
What
but
is going
you,
on?
Tika, you know what's crazy? The summer or the fall before, okay, the year before I went to college is when, do you
Uh-huh.
remember that story about the man on bath salts and he ate someone's face like on the causeway in
Yeah.
Miami?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think she was on something and
Like
like,
bath salts. Ooh,
yeah, she
girl.
was on something.
That was a
um,
time.
and
Jeez,
so
Louise.
so my sister also used that as an example. Like she always gets in these like fights, I guess. But it's like I didn't fight this girl. She like attacked me in the and it was like concluded in the the
That she was
case.
the aggressor.
That's
She
what happened,
attacked
right?
you.
Right. And so nothing ever really came of that. But and there was only one way charges. No charges were against me in that case.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Very different.
so then I graduated college. Like I said, there was a
Mm-hmm.
huge rift in our family.
Yeah.
So some family members were not invited to my college graduation and that caused
Oh my
problems. And
goodness.
then,
Yeah.
so then I moved back to Virginia. I got a job with a really huge company.
Mm-hmm.
And so I moved back to Virginia. I then got a job, like an offer, and they moved me back to Miami. And
Mm-hmm.
my mom got sick for a while. She's fine. She
Mm-hmm.
got sick for a while and I wanted to be closer to my mom. So I moved to Hampton Roads area.
Okay.
And at the time, my sister was living in Hampton Roads.
Ooh.
Same exact
Okay.
city. Same exact city with her boyfriend and her child.
Okay.
Mind you, she named her child after me.
Huh? Like after this
So his
incident or
first
before the
name,
incident?
oh, this is after the incident. Years after the incident. When
She
we have not
named her
spoken for
child after
years.
you?
His middle name is, so my name is Alexandra. His middle name is Alexander.
That is
And I've
interesting.
and I've spoken to her son's father about it, and he
Mm-hmm.
confirmed
Mm-hmm.
that yes. He's like, oh, I have a family member with the same name, but it is like
It's like to pay homage to both of y'all.
right.
Because if she had anything against you, she probably wouldn't be like, "No, I know you have a family member of that
Yeah,
name, but
right.
I'm not even going to give my child." Yeah, if it was
Right.
really a whole like, I can't stand her, we
Hmm.
don't have anything to talk about it. But
Right.
it's, I mean, but
Right.
I'm
Exactly.
making assumptions here, but that is kind of crazy.
No, yeah.
So
I think most
y'all are in the
people,
same.
because
Uh huh.
teachers even do that. They're like, oh, I had a really
Yeah.
bad student. I would never name my child that.
Yeah.
It's your sister's name that you said tried to kill you, and you tried to sue for $10,000 and ruin her life, and you named your son after her.
Okay.
So, so
This is taking so many twists and turns. I'm honestly experiencing whiplash on this end, but I'll be okay. I'll be fine. How are you?
oh, I'm fine. I feel like it's like 10 years later.
It
So,
is. Okay.
so I moved to Hampton Roads. We're living in the same city, probably
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes from each other. Um, and I remember my mom saying, like, I'm so glad you're going to be down there. You'll be able to help her if she needs help. And I got so mad at that statement because it's like I told you before, I feel like I'm like the victim. Like these things happen to me, and people are
Right.
still asking me to be the bigger person.
To be the
You
big
know what I mean? Like,
sister, to be the
yeah,
bigger
like you're still
person, to
asking me
assume
to be
that
the.
role.
She won't apologize. She
Mm,
won't have a conversation. And the thing is, I've sent her snail mail, like written a letter asking, like, why did these things happen? Like, I really
yeah.
needed answers for years.
Yeah.
I needed answers,
Yeah.
text, calls, all this stuff. And so the year that I moved back to Virginia, I remember agreeing to have a call with her.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking, it was just me and her.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I still knew her enough to that I could tell that it was like she was trying to be like brave, I guess,
Yeah.
and like stand up for herself. But I think we both knew that there was nothing she could say that could justify the things that she had done. And really,
Mhm.
what she just needed to say was, "I'm really, really sorry, and I know
Mhm.
that sorry won't do anything, but I'm willing to
This
like
is all
do
I
what
can
it
give
takes to."
you. Yeah.
That's all you can do.
Yeah, because the charges
And
were dropped. She's no longer suing, but it's still the emotional
oh
damage,
yeah, oh
right?
yeah,
And then, like you said, the ripple effect. This has affected now our extended
oh
family.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry is not necessarily going to fix everything. We
Mm-mm.
understand the sentiment of apologies, and we understand, hey, we can't go back and change the past, but wow, the
Mm-hmm.
brevity of every. It's like,
Right.
what is sorry really going to do? Wow.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. And so in that phone call, um, she was saying how like I really wanted to be like you, but I don't think there's anything wrong with a little sister wanting to be like their big sister. And I said, I'm not. I didn't say that there was
Absolutely not.
either. There's not. But I
Is
should
that
not be
really
the
what it
focal
was?
point, right? And it
Yeah.
shouldn't be so much so that it leads to where we are today. And so I'm just not good at always waiting for people to get their entire statements out. And so I was like cutting her off kind of, and I could tell it was frustrating her. And so I said, I don't want to have this conversation. And she's like, no, 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 let me talk. So I'm like, okay, like I just don't care to have this conversation. I don't think it's leading anywhere. And so wait, do you mind cursing or no?
Girl, go ahead.
Okay.
You're fine.
So she's like, you're a jailbird and a dumb bitch, jailbird, and hangs up the
And hung.
phone. Teka. I can't make this stuff up. I'm not joking. So
Wait,
I'm like a
that
jailbird. I've only been in jail when you sent me to jail. Like, what are you
was
talking
it even
about?
for a full 24 hours?
No.
Ma'am.
And so I'm like, okay, okay.
And
And
this is
then,
because you were like, I don't want to have this
yeah, I don't want to
conversation.
have
It's
this
not making
conversation. It's not
sense.
right.
And her
Hmm.
response was to go there.
Jailbird.
Okay.
Maybe you could
Okay.
title the, maybe you could make the title Jailbird. So, so then,
No,
um,
I'm not gonna make from sister to jailbird. Jesus.
that would be good. And then, so, okay, fast forward because there was a few years where it's just like, oh, that's what okay. So, I worked for a very big company that did
Right.
like grocery delivery and stuff like
Right.
that in the area, covered it for all of Hampton Roads. And I knew that my sister financially was not doing well,
Okay.
very much so not doing well. And I
Okay.
had just bought a house and I was like doing well. And so I
Yeah.
still wanted to help her, but I didn't want her to get too close
Mm.
to me. So I
Mm-hmm.
texted her boyfriend and I said, we're clearing out our grocery warehouse. We're relocating.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to package groceries and give them to you guys. When I say I filled
Wow.
his car, filled the front, the back, the trunk with groceries.
Jeez. Wow. So okay. Because I feel like, okay, this is now the therapist in me popping out. But
Okay.
when it comes to the role, family dynamics, and the roles that we have, it is so hard sometimes to let go of those roles. And I'm hearing like your role as not only like the middle sister, but also like the older sister who was very much like protective and defensive
Mm-hmm.
over her siblings and even herself. It is not easy to say, even though you hurt me, to an end that I can't even explain, I still have love for you. Because that's love.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you know how some people say like you can leave someone, but you don't just like end the love that you
Mm-hmm.
have for them that day
Mm-hmm.
that you leave them. It's like I still have love for you. I still want the
Mm-hmm.
best for you and your child and your
Mm-hmm.
man.
Mm-hmm.
That is okay.
And
Okay,
even
and
when
that
I had
even
to,
contradicts this character flaw. I mean, this character assassination that they were trying to do before.
that's what I'm saying. And even when I
Wow.
had to press counter charges on her, I was like bawling my eyes out. Like I don't want this to happen for her. I don't want to do
Yeah.
this. I don't want to do this.
But your
I
lawyer
don't
was
want to
like,
do this.
yeah. Mhm.
And that, yeah, like this is what you have to do. And so I texted her boyfriend and I said, "You can come get groceries. Do not let her come here." Because
Mhm.
I knew they were struggling, but it was like who am I to have like I'm like a single woman, just built a house, like bought a house, all this stuff. And like my sister has a boyfriend and a kid, and they're struggling. And I'm in the
Mm-hmm.
same city, and I'm throwing like
Food
brand new
away.
groceries away.
Yeah.
So filled the whole car. Just go, take it. It's fine.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you I was not supposed to do that.
Yeah,
Like
I'm
through
sure.
my employer. Yeah. So that happened. And um randomly I would get like a text or a phone call from her boyfriend. And then
Mm-hmm.
it would kind of get weird because then I would get like a text or a phone call and it would say his name.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it hung up, it would say her name. I don't know how that happened. So
Wow.
I like, and I think they were like doing like a three-way call or something and she could listen or something like that. And so
Oh.
maybe, yeah. But when
Okay.
when they called, it would be him. And so he would ask like, "Hey, do you want to go get some breakfast with us? We're about to go out to breakfast." And I'm like, there are so many conversations that need to be had before we
Before
go out
we
and get
break
breakfast
bread.
together. And so I said no. And that maybe happened like two or three times.
Okay.
And
A
then
boundary.
right. And then what happened? The pandemic happened. So
Oh
I
yeah.
moved here in like
Okay.
2019ish. And
Mm-hmm.
then in 2020 is when I started IVF to become a single mom by choice. And
Mm-hmm.
COVID happened and all that stuff.
All the
And
things.
um you start to like build your quarantine bubble. Like we know these
Right.
people are just going to be around these people, blah blah blah. And so my
Mm-hmm.
mom had chosen me to be in her quarantine bubble because all I was doing was going to work and coming home. I was not
Right.
hanging out with anyone, nothing.
Right.
And I'm assuming my sister was doing more. She had a son that probably went to daycare and a boyfriend that went to
A lot
work. And
more
so,
risk.
right, exactly. So she just said it would just be me and her. And we were both single, living in our own homes. Like,
Mm-hmm. Plus, you said your mom was getting over an illness. She was still
right,
okay.
right, right.
Yeah, so she
Exactly.
could be at risk. Yeah.
Right. And so I did not announce my pregnancy. I got pregnant in like July. I
Mm-hmm.
did not announce my pregnancy until March, I think, of the
Mm-hmm.
next year, and I was due in April. And it was pandemic. It was COVID. No, like you don't
I
see
remember
anyone.
that. I remember because you said like I think you said like you're starting your maternity leave, and I said for who? What for what? What is
Yeah.
happening?
And I remember I did like
Yeah.
a little like a boomerang on my
Mm.
story because I had just bought
Mm-hmm.
a new car and I was like, this is my mom car. And I
Oh,
like kind of showed my belly in the boomerang. I'm like, everyone's more excited about my belly than my car.
well, duh, ma'am. We can see a car any day. Who knew you were pregnant?
Yeah, no one knew I was pregnant. But the funny thing is, so I announced it in March, like
Uh huh.
everyone knew in March. And people talk. And this is how I know people
Mm-hmm.
talk.
Mm-hmm.
Because then my mom gets a call from my sister that says, Zan hasn't been quarantining. I just want you to be safe. Just know that she hasn't been quarantining. And my mom's like, "What are you talking about? What do you mean?" And so she's like, "Yeah, she hasn't been quarantining. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. She hasn't been
I was trying
quarantining."
to say, oh, she's pregnant because she's been hanging out with other
Right.
people. Mind?
Meanwhile, my belly is the size of a beach ball.
I'm
So
sure your
what
mom
she heard
knows
was
what
I was
happened.
pregnant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I remember so that was like one day and then like the next day she calls back again and it was a FaceTime. So she FaceTimes her and my mom doesn't answer because we were together and she's like, this is just gonna cause drama. And
Yeah.
so then she FaceTimes again. So I answer. I'm like, what's up? And she's like, no one cares about you, no one cares about you, blah, blah, blah. Um, and again, people have to be talking about me. I have to be a topic of conversation somewhere where we're from because then she says, you're a dirty hoe. You're a dirty hoe. And I'm like, how am I a dirty hoe? She's like, you use donor sperm off the internet. So it's like in 1 second, she wants to reconcile and she hopes that I come back and we can like mend this relationship. And then in the next breath, I'm a jailbird and a dumb bitch and a dirty hoe. And it's
And
like,
this is unprovoked. I'm assuming.
This
Like,
is
why?
this
How
is
did this
this
get
is
to
simply
that?
because I answered the phone and I said, "What else do you need to tell her about me?" Like, how are you even telling anyone anything about me? We do not speak.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
so it's just like for me, it's like I would love to have the relationship back, but it's hot and cold. Like 1 second supposedly willing to have this conversation and mend things, and then the next second you're one digging up information about me, either asking someone or someone's reporting back to you or something about me,
Yeah.
and you're like using, like, weaponizing it.
Yeah.
And so
Oof, jeez.
so for me it's like, we're done.
Yeah.
We're done. There's no going back. There's no reconciliation.
Yeah. So was that
And
like one of the last times y'all spoke? How did
oh,
that
absolutely.
even pan out? Oh my goodness.
And this is 8 months pregnant, about to give birth.
Yeah. Okay. So we don't need to stress.
Right.
Wow, Zan.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we could only guess, speculate, assume, grab at straws, but do you feel like there was anything going on with like her mental health and anything that could have maybe even been the catalyst for this? Because I noticed you were like, okay, around the time that the fight had happened, she had reconnected with y'all's biological father. And
Yeah.
then things were escalating to a very like, it was just incongruent. It was like, how do we go from I don't want to clean the kitchen to you're slamming my head to the ground to now I'm trying to kill you to I'm charging you $10,000 for a guitar? Like this does not make sense.
Mm-hmm.
It does not. It's in the like mental health space. We basically are like, this is all. It's just incongruent. It doesn't make sense. It's I can't think of words right now because they're flying all around. But basically,
Right.
what do you think you know or have an idea of maybe what was going on? Because I know
Yeah.
you also asked for a psych eval because you so clearly you were
Oh,
like
yeah.
mental health is
Mm-hmm.
something that we need to address in this whole case. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm a veteran. Like I shared, I was in the military. So
Mm-hmm.
I have seen a therapist through the VA,
Mm-hmm.
and have shared a lot of the details that I've shared here.
Yeah.
And I don't want to like I don't want to say the wrong thing. I want to say she said some type of like behavioral or personality or some
Personality
type of
disorder.
disorder or something, yeah, something like that.
Okay.
And that it could be a trauma that occurred, and we just like react or like handle it differently.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
how I'm like I don't know, I don't want to seem like the greatest like hero and all this stuff, but it's like forging on, like still trying to like move forward and keep going and
Mm-hmm.
do things and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this has like taken over her like
Her psyche.
outlook,
Yeah. Yeah.
but then also in all of this, my mom and myself learned that um there had been statements that she was hearing, or like people were saying, that I feel bad because I remember them. So the
Mm-hmm.
aunt that I told you about, her
Mm-hmm.
husband would make statements. What did he say? Two people, one brain, and Zan carries the brain, because she was like my shadow. She was like my little sister. We were always together, and I
Mm-hmm.
was the vocal one. She was the quieter one.
Mm.
And so, and then on the other side of that, she was the smart one. So I'm sure for someone to say Zan carries the brain when Zan has never made honor roll, like A's, B's, C's, D's, F's, all of them. I got all of
Mm-hmm.
them.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like A honor roll. So I'm
Yeah.
sure little statements like that, which I also find ironic that you chose to go
That's
now live with this
invalidating.
person. Right.
Yeah.
But you chose to go live with this person
Mm-hmm.
that has put these things, like all of these like doubts and insecurities in your
Mm-hmm.
head.
Mm-hmm.
And I
And it's
know
probably
that,
just re-traumatizing. I wonder if they were
right,
bringing that up still, or what their perception was. We don't know, but
right. And then for me, it's just like, I probably would have gone to like the ends of the earth for
I'm
her.
sure.
And so it's like, you just gave that up for a man that almost let me drown at a pool party with his side chick.
Mm. So do you feel
Like,
like this was almost like a I'm on dad's side
I
type of
think that
thing
he was
too?
feeding her things like, you could do this if you do this and she does this, then like I said, I gave a few examples, but his mom
Yeah,
used to
yeah.
live with us and she would do things, and it's just like, my
To
sister
like
does not remember
triangulate.
them. Right.
Wow. So, how is your mental health throughout all of this? Because I know right now you can talk about it, right? You said it's like 10
Mm-hmm.
years later, we're talking about it, we're seeing the resilience from it. Of course, it's like going to jail, being arrested, period. That's traumatizing. Being sued, that can be traumatizing. Being
Mm-hmm.
attacked subsequently when you're in college after being attacked, like all of that can be, I'm not putting it on you, but it can
Mm-hmm.
be traumatizing or very significant life experiences. Like how, and then on top of that, like you said, you're a veteran too. So it's like, okay, all these things combined, like
Mm-hmm.
how was and how is your mental health, and how are you managing all of that?
I think I think for like majority of the time I think I'm like fine. And then I really think
Mm-hmm.
about like when people are like, "Oh, I have all my friends." And I'm like, "I have two friends." Like I
Mm-hmm.
truly do not trust people. I don't trust anyone.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the biggest thing that it's done for me is like I don't trust people.
Yeah.
Like how can
So
my best friend, my sister do this and I don't trust anyone.
yeah, it's hard to be vulnerable again
Hmm.
and trust that you can connect with someone. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Is that something you feel like you're working on or you want to change?
Um, I don't know, honestly,
Okay.
because I feel like say I grow and I learn to trust again and then something else happens. It's like, did I truly believe that I was trusting them or was I waiting for the other shoe to drop? You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Right. Yeah.
so I mean, yeah, no,
And
I don't,
it takes time to build that, it takes time to build that belief, or to kind of rewire our belief system when it comes to our connection to other people, because I understand to be like, oh, this happened to me with this person when I was
mm-hmm,
vulnerable and defensive of them and protective of them and literally couldn't get closer than blood. So how do I know that someone who is just a friend or just like a stranger that
mm-hmm,
I'm now connected with off the street won't do the same thing? um and it does create like a barrier, so it's understandable that you're like, friend,
no, right,
please. I called
right,
someone sister and this happened to me.
right,
So,
exactly.
friend is something you have to earn.
Mm-hmm,
And there's nothing wrong with wanting people to earn that level of vulnerability with you,
mm-hmm.
for sure. But, whew,
Yeah,
I cannot imagine.
mm-hmm,
Wow. So,
yeah,
like
I
you
don't,
said, it's 10 years later. We're talking about it now. And like we mentioned earlier, we had our relation, we could relate the relatability in terms of like siblings and the different experiences in the house, the different truths in the house.
mm-hmm,
If there are other listeners, viewers right now who are like, yeah, I've had, tits or quarrels with my siblings, or I'm estranged from some of my siblings, like what is something that you would, that you would say to them? Something you would want them to hold on to after hearing your story.
I think I'm always telling someone that they need to figure out who and what their priorities are. And so in this situation, I feel like my sister was prioritizing relationships with people that were not prioritizing her.
Mm,
And although, like third parties, I
right.
think I could have done a better job of defending her. But I mean, also, she could speak up for herself and say something, you know? And so
Mhm.
I think I could have done a better job of defending her when we heard statements like two bodies, one brain, and Zan carries the brain.
Right.
But again, she could also. So, um, prioritizing the people that prioritize you. And
Mhm.
so if you're finding that a third party is coming in and causing a rift in a relationship that you find valuable and
Mhm.
is worthwhile to you,
Yeah.
then sit down and determine who's a priority, this
Yep.
third party or the relationship that I've had for 10, 20 years. And
Yeah.
it's not always the 10, 20-year relationship that is the priority, but
Yeah.
determining who and what is the priority, I think, is my thing. Because then you can determine, is this something that I want to sit down and work through? Is this something that I want to apologize for? Is this something that I want to give more of myself to? Because like I said, I've been willing to have that conversation with her, and then the conversations go sideways.
Right.
And so if it's now twice that we've had conversations and the conversations have ended with you name calling, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
Where
I
can we
don't,
go?
yeah, right. Where can we go?
Yeah. Man. Well, I agree. I agree. Prioritize who's prioritizing you and really know why you want to be in the relationships you're in. Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. I know that it can be a lot to
Hmm.
recall all of that, and I know we can have the humor and bring some of that to it as well, but this is definitely a testament of like your resilience and your strength to be able to recall a lot of the events that cause an estrangement, a relationship breakdown between you and someone you called your best friend. So
Right.
I'm really sorry that happened to you. One.
Thank
Um,
you.
and to be honest, I'm sorry it happened to both of you because I hate that
Hmm.
someone got in between you two.
I agree.
Because like you said, we grew up together in high school, and I
Hmm.
remember y'all were thick as thieves. Y'all held it down
Hmm.
for each other. So it's like, man, that sucks that it happened.
Hmm.
And I just hope that you continue to let your resilience carry you through, and that trust is something that you feel safe giving to others again.
Yeah, I'd like to get back to that.
Yeah. All right. Well, y'all, listening to Zan's story, I'm sure a lot of us can either relate or know someone who can relate. But I do want us to switch gears to a space of gratitude. Gratitude is a great space or a great thing to practice. It's a part of what people see as like post traumatic growth, or resilience, or shifting our perspective. And on the podcast, we have a segment called GIFT. And GIFT is an acronym. The G stands for gratitude or goal, the I is for intention, the F is for faith or focus, and then the T is for take action. So, I will go first. My gratitude is actually for having relationships outside of my family that I call like sister friends. I think, like you said, it takes a lot to be vulnerable and connect with people. And sometimes your siblings may not be the people that are your best friends. I think I have kind
Hmm.
of like a different story where my siblings were not my best friends.
Hmm.
Other people were like friends that I made like in school or at jobs or whatever. So I'm grateful for that. Um, my intention is kind of along with what you said, is to be very clear about who and what or who and why I connect to, because you can perceive the relationship to be one thing
Hmm.
because it's what you desire or it's what you want. It may be coming from a place of trauma, it may be coming from a place of invalidation, and you're just trying to get that validation or acceptance. So just being clear on who and why you're connecting to someone. Um, that's my intention, to continue to do that. My faith or focus. I think my focus would be to continue to cultivate healthy relationships, you know? I think, like you said, it takes time and it takes vulnerability. And I used to say, like, oh, I have all the friends I need. Like, friendship applications are now closed. But I feel like you can always connect with someone. So I want to
Yeah.
just cultivate that. And then take action. Take action. How will I take action? Um, hmm. I want to be more intentional. So I'm going to call people more often. I think I just kind of like text or just kind of assume people are good based on social media. I think we all sometimes do that. So I want to call and reach out to people more often. That'll be my take action. All right. What say you?
Okay. So my gratitude is I have gratitude for the people who are in my life who I
Mhm.
know do truly care about me
Yeah.
and will do what it takes to actually show that they care about me.
Yes.
Um, my intention,
Hmm.
hmm,
It's kind of like, what do you want to embody or let be your North Star?
um, staying positive and like so like I know like I'll have bad days and I want to be intentional about not letting the bad days last too
Yeah.
long, or
Yeah.
like the bad hour or minute or however long
Yes.
it takes, like just let it be that time and
Hmm.
then keep going.
Yeah. That's
And then my focus is, I would say my focus is like building or like continuing to like pull all the pieces together and like to make my life exactly the way I want it to be. And so I kind of shared a little bit that I'm a single mom by choice, but I think that for many, that would be a very difficult choice to make. And so I just want to continue doing things like if it's awkward to some people, that's perfectly fine with me, but I just want to keep living the life that makes me happy.
Unapologetically too.
Yes. And then what's T?
Take action. How you
Take
take
action.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that was more difficult for me.
What's something you want to do? Oh my gosh. Sorry, I was trying to kill a spider as well.
It's okay. I think I'll take action in like helping. I think I really like to help people. So maybe helping others also make those, like help make those decisions. Like you don't have to do what's normal. And I kind of do that like on my Instagram and my YouTube page, like just showing what a different life might look like for people. So
yeah, I love that. I love that. And I think you are already doing that. Like you said, you have your YouTube, you have your Instagram, your social media. And I definitely want people to follow you on that. So what are your social media platforms, or the way that you are showing people to live unapologetically without trying to be quote unquote normal or fit into
normal,
boxes?
right? So my Instagram is Life with Alexandra K, and K is just one letter. And then my YouTube is the same thing. So I have a YouTube channel where I pretty much just vlog. I'm newly pregnant, so I'll probably be documenting my pregnancy on there, about my life as a single mom by choice. Thank you.
Yes. Well, and I would love, so we talked about this earlier off record, but I would definitely love for you to come back and talk about what it is like to be a single mom by choice, especially as a Black woman, and free birth. Which, if people don't know what free birth is, what is free birth, really quick?
Free birth is an unassisted home birth. So you are having your baby at home with no medical professional, but you should be very educated on what that looks like and what's physiologically normal and what's not. So essentially no midwife. You could have a doula. A doula will hold space for you and like help you get your water and ice chips and stuff. Massages if you need them.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I would love to hear more about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, all right, you all, I'll definitely put the links in the description, her YouTube and her Instagram. Go there, not only just to kind of be nosy, but to get educated, really to get educated on some of the things that Zan has shared with us, with regards to being a single mom by choice and free birth. Before we go, I have another segment really quick. It's called Vibe Tunes ATM at the moment. And it really is just about music. So this doesn't even have to relate to the topic here, but it's just what has been your vibe lately. What's the song you've been kind of tapping into? What you've been enjoying?
Let me see.
Yeah, I'm about to open up my playlist. I actually just added a song. This song is so unrelated, y'all, and you're gonna laugh. So while Zane is finding hers, I'm gonna share mine. So mine is actually it's been going crazy on TikTok and Instagram.
Oh gosh.
It is by someone named That Chick Angel.
Oh god.
And she actually put it on Apple Music. It's called One Margarita. It's the Margarita song, and I feel like it is a summer anthem.
Oh wait, I think I've heard this song. It
is so funny. It is not safe for work. And it's probably not for kids either, but it is on Apple Music. It's on my playlist, and I'll put the link in the bio. It is hilarious. I just love Black women being unapologetic, one. But it is about to be a hot girl summer, but also a healing girl summer, like y'all see my shirt. So I could be hot and healing. So if I want margaritas, I'm going to have margaritas. If I need to go to therapy, I'm going to do that too. So that's my song, One Margarita by That Chick Angel.
I think I'll say Plan B by Meg Thee Stallion.
Okay. Why?
I don't know. I think
I love that song. It's giving a little Kim vibes. I'm like, yes.
I'm like a girl's girl, feminist, like do what you want to do.
Yes.
So I think that's like the vibe I'd like to leave with people.
We're leaving y'all with a very hot girl vibe, okay? Very feminist, womanist
Okay.
vibe. Have your margaritas, take your Plan Bs.
Okay.
If it is a hot girl summer or not, I mean, have a kid.
Do what you want to do. Do whatever you want to do.
It's your choice.
Exactly.
I love that. Thank you so much, Zed, again, for being
me.
so vulnerable, for being brave and courageous in sharing. I say this all the time, your story can really inspire and encourage others, and we will never know until we decide to take that leap. So, thank you all listeners and viewers as well for listening to Here We Are, the Mindful Podcast. Let's connect on Instagram at the Here We Are Pod, Facebook at Here We Are Podcast with Teka, as well as on YouTube at Here We Are Pod. And remember, if you're loving the podcast, I'd be so honored if you go ahead and hit that subscribe button, rate and leave me a review, especially on Apple Podcasts, because what that does is it helps it get in front of the people who need it the most. If you want to share your story, maybe you have some words of encouragement for Zan, or you just want to give me some feedback, feel free to email the HereWeArePod@gmail.com. And remember, again, your story can inspire and encourage others. Remember to breathe in this present moment. Our past can definitely inform, but it doesn't have to control. Take care.